Today, I'm going to teach entrepreneurs with ADHD how to escape the chaos in their mind, double their profits, and work less so that you can build a business and life that grows exponentially. I guarantee that this video will change your life if you can listen carefully. Just for some context, I am a 26-year-old millionaire who has helped over 40 entrepreneurs achieve this exact result. But I didn't start like this. Just like you, I used to spend all day drowning in my thoughts, constantly distracted, and always feeling overwhelmed. I really wish I had a friend back then, and my only goal with this is to help someone else who might be going through something similar. Let me start by asking you a question. How many tabs have you got open inside your head right now, right? And I'm talking about new business ideas, life ambitions, to-do lists. You see, the problem with successful entrepreneurs with ADHD is that we have too many thoughts running at the same time, right? We're so busy, so overwhelmed and exhausted that we're never able to step back, finish a task, and actually grow. And what most of us try to do is fix this with discipline. But I've got news for you. It just won't work. You see, business gurus online keep saying the same shit. They say work all day, build a rigid routine, be consistent. But if you have an ADHD brain, then you already know what happens if you try to follow that, right? You try it, you maybe last 3 days, and then before you know it, you hate it and you give up again. And for me anyways, and I'm pretty sure for you as well, this is followed by an emotional crash out. You call yourself lazy, you say you're not going to get far in life, and then the cycle repeats, right? You try and find advice for it again. But the truth is, you never had a discipline problem. It's always been a direction problem disguised. And I can say that confidently because I've helped over 40 entrepreneurs achieve this exact thing. Let me give you an example. I had a guy named Tommy come to me in 2023, right? He's now a close personal friend of mine. When he came to me, he was grinding 65 hours a week, drowning in ideas, stuck in busy work, not actually moving his business forwards. But within just 90 days of working together, he dropped to 15 hours, he automated his entire business engine, and he doubled his income. After following the system, his business now grows exponentially, whilst he sips cocktails, focuses on growth strategy, and plays paddle in Bali all day. He's living the life that he's always dreamed of. You see, the difference is that instead of chaotic and erratic, his mind is now calmly electric towards his goals. I've seen this repeat again and again because when you stop fighting your brain and you channel the lightning inside of you properly, then you will become unstoppable. You will literally be able to turn your ADHD into a superpower. This is the exact system that I wish someone gave me when I was drowning myself and just needed help. And it starts with one thing that literally nobody does it properly: the destination and the vision. Because if you don't choose a destination that your dopamine can respect, your ADHD will forever stay scattered. If I asked you to look up at a starry sky and stay focused on one star every night for a year, you wouldn't be able to. And that's because there's so many distractions that look so similar. But if we made one star as big as the sun, then we'd never lose it again. And for ADHD entrepreneurs, a vision is more than just inspiration. Because if you don't decide in your mind, your heart, and your soul exactly where you're going, then your ADHD will decide for you. If you have a blurry destination and you're not fully sure exactly where you're going, then your ADHD is going to chase every shiny object because it feels more clear than what you're currently heading towards. You see, I describe the ADHD mind like swimming in the ocean, okay? Your thoughts are like waves, and one wave might push you left and then another wave pushes you right. And all you're trying to do is swim to the shore, right? The business that you want, the life that you want. But eventually, the waves get so chaotic that you stop swimming forwards and instead switch into survival mode. You know, you think, forget the destination, like I can focus on that afterwards. Right now, all I need to do is focus on surviving. I need to get through to the next day. And the problem with this is that ADHD entrepreneurs confuse this survival for being productive. Because you look and you feel busy, right? You're stressed, you're doing stuff all day. But if you took a step back for a second and looked at yourself, you'd be in the exact same position that you were in a week ago, if not worse, because now you're stressed. So the first step is to be fully clear on your destination and your vision, that none of the distractions can make you forget where you're really trying to go. Most people mess up at this stage because they hear vision and they just instantly think about making a mood board, right? But that shit doesn't work. I've designed something called the quantum string and it is completely different. Okay, one day I'll make a whole video on it because it is fucking beautiful. It's literally like I've understood the science behind the fourth dimension, or at least the pseudoscience behind it. And I fully understand like you can make any life you want possible. It's kind of like a movie, right? From baby to where you are today, like the movie's already been set. But there are a bunch of different endings in terms of where the movie could get to, right? And it's just about reverse engineering the steps in order to get to that ending. But anyways, I'll make a video on that one day in full detail. And the way you do this properly is that you don't dream of a future, you design the perfect character. When I did this for myself, I spent a whole week designing my target, okay? Not my goals or my income. I'm talking about my standards, my energy. How would I want to respond to different situations in life? Like, who is the person that I want to be? And without going too deep into it, my 5-year vision is basically like a real life version of Batman, okay? I really want to be that cool. I want to be that guy. I want my family to love me. I want my friends to love me. I just want to be the main character. So every morning, I can feel that future version of me pulling me closer by aligning what I do today with what he would do. I don't ask what do I feel like doing, because if I follow my feelings, then I'll do 38 random tasks and finish nothing. Instead, I ask, this is what happened yesterday. What would you do next? Okay, what would you ignore? What would bring me closer today to you? A question that you can ask yourself to make this easier is, if your future self watched how you worked yesterday, would he respect it? Right? And then ask the same question, like last week, last month, last year. That's the string, okay? Because it connects your fire, the feeling that you have inside, the electricity, to your destination, so that you stop drifting and you are connected to one clear vision. Now, I will add a warning here, because this is the most important stage of my entire process, and a lot of founders self-sabotage themselves. Most people try to build this alone, and they build a vision that feels good on paper, right? But it collapses the second that any pressure hits it. And this is because they design a fantasy or a dream rather than a concrete vision that fully encompasses the desires of the heart, the soul, and the mind. Then they end up losing this quantum string that we've designed and resort back to standard productivity advice, which we've already seen doesn't work. I'm gonna stop you right there. It's not that this doesn't work. It's just that you didn't build the vision properly. But if you get this right, you will finally feel what you've been craving for your whole life: a sustained hyperfocus on your dream life. Perfect. Now let's move on to phase 2, because even if you have the destination, you'll never be able to focus on it when you're surrounded by distractions. Now, this is the part that actually pissed me off enough to make this video. You see, most people get lied to thinking that productivity is about adding things, right? Like a new app, a new journal, new routines. But that is wrong. Productivity is 90% about subtraction. You see, you can build the most perfect system in the world, a Ferrari engine for your business. But if there is sand in the gears, then it will destroy itself no matter what. And that's why I never recommend my clients to go and hire agencies that increase their customers when they're facing problems. And it's because if you're adding systems on top of noise, then you're inevitably going to self-sabotage yourself. Now, you might improve in the short term, but if you're not fixing the underlying issue, then you're never going to run a sustainable business that can grow exponentially. So let's go back to the drowning analogy for a second. If phase 1 gave you the destination, and phase 3, what we're about to do, gives you the jet ski or the yacht or whatever you want, like the engine and the vehicle that streamlines you towards that vision, then phase 2 is about dealing with the shark in the water. Because you won't get on the jet ski if there is a dangerous obstacle or something that's distracting you between the jet ski and yourself. If there's something in the middle, you're just not going to focus on the system. Now, in real life, this shark looks like the constant notifications, meetings that should have been emails, people that drain your energy. It could be a bunch of different things. So before you build anything, before you focus on the system, you need to do an audit. And the most basic way for you to do this is to analyze your actions every 15 minutes for 2 weeks. For each 15-minute slot, you highlight it in green if it gave you energy, or in red if it drained you. Then alongside that color, you add 1 to 4 pound signs or dollar signs, depending on the impact or value to the business of that action. So for example, checking emails would be 1 pound sign, but meeting a VC or pitching for a new retainer would be 4 pound signs. And the overall aim of this is to audit what you're doing today and replace as many of the reds and the 1 pound signs or the 2 pound signs, and instead add in a greater number of greens and 3 pound signs or 4 pound signs. Now, whilst this does look easy, it is very difficult in reality to remove parts of your business without everything falling apart. I've been doing this for 10 years now for both the biggest companies in the world like Nike, Nvidia, Microsoft. The list goes on. But at the same time, I've done it for solopreneurs, right? Small teams. And the fundamental principles are the same. If I were to give you one piece of advice from everything that I've learned over the last 10 years, is focus on mapping out all of your business activities and strip away the lowest value ones that just don't benefit you, your business, or your customer. Because if you don't do this, then your ADHD will default to survival mode. And survival mode doesn't build businesses. So once you've done this audit, you're going to notice something weird. You'll finally have the space to just breathe. And now finally is the perfect time for us to build the system that lets you hyper-focus on achieving your vision. But if you build the wrong system, then you're going to hate it within a week and start crashing out and resorting back to your old ways. Okay, so phase 3 is where we build a system that your ADHD brain will actually stick to. Perfect. So Now that the noise is down, we can finally build the system. But listen to me carefully. Do not build a rigid routine. Okay, because I know it might look good in the beginning, it might look shiny, but I guarantee that it will overwhelm you within 3 days, maybe a little bit longer, but it eventually will overwhelm you. And then you'll fall back into old patterns. And when you do that, you're going to start forgetting your vision. You'll allow the energy drainers back into, etc. We don't want to break down all of the hard work that we've just done. So instead of a routine, you need something that gives you direction without actually suffocating you. It needs to be simple enough that you'll actually do it, flexible enough that you can still flow, and still structured enough that your hyperfocus stops being wasted and focused towards your dream. Now, this phase 3 is broken down into 4 pillars. And I'm telling you right now, guys, even if one of these things are missing, you will end up back in the chaos that you started with, right? So please pay attention to this bit. Pillar 1 is reverse engineering the vision from phase 1. Okay, so most people plan forwards, but for our brains, planning forwards turns into 17 possibilities, 12 different directions, but 0 execution. So what we do is we plan backwards. We take that quantum string from phase 1, which is the destination, and we reverse engineer it into targets. Okay, so keep it light. Let's say that your vision is your goal where you want to be in 5 years' time. What you want to do is break that down into high-level yearly milestones and then break those down into small, quantifiable quarterly targets. And the quarterly targets matter because they're short enough to feel real, but big enough to actually light your brain up. And now your job every day is to target this one quarterly target and nothing else. And here's the part that most people mess up. They plan their workday in the morning, but this will never lead to good results because you wake up with 0 dopamine, you feel foggy, and your brain will just want to do something easy like clearing inbox or tweaking a website or changing your offer messaging. Now, all of a sudden, when you wake up, you're not deciding what to do. You're just executing the mission that yesterday's version decided for you. And before I move on, I know how hard this is, okay? That's why I've spent months building a Notion dashboard that gamifies the entire CEO operating system so that you can track, visualize, and monitor all of your success in one central place. And on top of that, it actually makes doing this system fun. If I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably the main reason that I have so much success because everything just flows so smoothly after I built this. And what I did is I made it contain my vision, my goals, my daily tasks, calendar, journal, habits, my finances. It literally tracks everything. And it also holds the CEO dashboard, but I don't want to talk about that right now. That's a part of phase 5. If you ever want to find out more about this dashboard that I've built, then just ask me to show you on our call or send me a DM. It's literally my pride and joy. I'll never stop talking about it. Right, so that brings us on to pillar 2, which is about prioritization. This is how entrepreneurs with ADHD waste their best energy. You see, most people use an opt-in approach, right? A task shows up and you go, yeah, I should probably do that, but I need to park that. Let me do that next week. But if we're honest with each other, we treat scheduling like permission to forget to do something, okay? If we schedule something for 2 weeks' time, I guarantee 90% of the time you'll just never do it. So instead, I use an opt-out approach. When something lands on my plate, I ask, is this actually a problem? All right, what breaks if I don't do this? And half the time, nothing ever breaks. Those tasks that aren't going to break down the whole system if you let them go, then you just park them for low energy days. But when something actually is important, the rule is very simple, okay? Why can't I do this right now? And if it can't be done, why not tonight? And if not tonight, then why not tomorrow? Because the second you start pushing the real priorities into sometime next week, then just like we said, your brain's going to drift back into busy work and you'll lose momentum. Now that brings us onto pillar 3, the emotional wall. I want to talk about the crash out cycle that keeps repeating day in, day out and is keeping us trapped. The cycle that I saw kept repeating within myself and the founders that I've worked with is this like, you've got stress that builds up, which leads to overwhelm. That makes you feel frustrated. And when you're frustrated, you're not thinking clearly. So that leads to bad business decisions. When you make bad business decisions, you're angry again, right? So you start lashing out at people. And when you lash out at people, you start regretting it. And when you regret something, then you get annoyed at yourself, right? And then the stress starts repeating. 2 years ago, I was about to close a life-changing deal with Alex Hormozzi's team. 3 days before our call, I had a builder threaten to burn down one of my properties in London. And for some reason, I just couldn't stop myself from replaying scenarios in my head. I spiraled all day, all night. I lost it completely, okay? I was lashing out at my family. I stopped making good decisions. And it goes without saying, I just didn't close that deal. Let me tell you something, guys. It doesn't matter if you have the perfect plan, if a rude email, a client problem, or some personal drama can derail you, and all of a sudden, you lose your connection to the quantum string. And I learned this the hard way, okay? So I've made it a core part of my system to manage emotions in a way that works for us. Every morning, before you connect with the world, I want you to reconnect with your quantum string, okay? The dream version of yourself, the one that doesn't get agitated over minor things. And just for 10 minutes, guys, just try not to have any distraction, right? Put your phone away, put your laptop away, just you and your identity speaking. Ask him questions like, what would you do in this situation? And when you do this, suddenly you start breaking down all of these emotional tsunamis into minor waves. So instead of letting them derail you, your hyperfocus can stay locked, right? Your decision sharpened, and that anger that you feel, instead of burning like a wildfire, it just burns steady and contained. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be able to control your actions and improve day by day. And that brings us on to the last pillar of phase 3, execution. Okay, we need to solve the last bottleneck, which is often the biggest one for ADHD entrepreneurs. It's about execution. Because you can have the clarity, the priorities, and the emotional regulation, but some founders still end up procrastinating. And this happens for two main reasons, okay? And number one is self-sabotage, where your brain invents reasons to stop progressing. Like, for example, me telling myself that I can do everything myself and never ask for help. Okay, it just is stupid. And number two, your physical environment is working against you. You see, execution is 50% psychology and 50% environment. So tonight, I want you to spend 10 minutes killing all of the friction, okay? Clean your desk, hide the phone, and whilst you journal, logic bomb all of your fears. Write down the worst case scenario for your biggest fears, okay? And break it down logically until it no longer becomes scary. Because most procrastination is just fear that you haven't said out loud. Once you write it down, then you regain the control over it. Now, when these 4 pillars are in place, everything in your life is going to change. Life doesn't feel heavy anymore. You have a clear path, step by step to success. As long as you reverse engineer your vision daily, you cut the noise and you manage your emotions, I guarantee that you will be successful. You'll never have to rely on dopamine or motivation again. So now we move on to phase 4, where we hyperscale this whole system even further. You see, you can execute all day, but still feel trapped in the operations of your business. You know, not being able to focus on growth because the business is demanding too much from you. So leverage is what's going to help you buy back your life. So the first thing we want to do is optimize your time management. And everyone is unique here, okay? So don't make the mistake of following some random guy's routine thinking that it's going to work for you. For example, you can't force a night owl to do deep strategy work at 5 a.m. and expect good results. It just doesn't make sense. So instead, you find your peak window for flow. And this is when your brain is naturally at its sharpest. And there's only one rule for this phase, okay? Do not waste your window on low value shit. Okay, I'm talking about things like admin, I'm talking about meetings and firefighting. Time box 2 to 4 hours when your energy is at its peak and use it for stuff that actually moves the business forward, like strategy or sales decisions, creative direction. You know, solve the real problems in your business. And everything else, like all of the low value stuff, that goes into the low energy slots. You see, I know a lot of founders that are still doing $20 an hour work in their business. And I'm talking about the admin, the meeting, the scheduling. I'm going to give you some perspective here, okay? You're not a hustler by doing this. You're just slowing your business down. And people argue against me saying that they can't afford to hire help. But I have agencies that work for me that can hire skilled employees in Asia for $4 an hour. So the money issue just doesn't make sense to me. But even if it was the case, I think that the truth is half the time it's not about the money, it's about control. It's the mentality that no one else can do it as good as you. So you keep hoarding the tasks for yourself. Right? You're keeping yourself trapped and overwhelmed. So here's the framework that I use with my clients to buy them back a minimum of 20 hours a week for high profit work like growth strategy and networking. The mantra is very simple. Delegate first and automate second. Because if you automate a broken process, then you're just scaling chaos. So look at the audit that you did in phase 2 and pick the most draining task that still needs doing, right? So invoicing, support, scheduling. And what I want you to do is hand off one thing at a time. And to bypass the quality issue that no one else can do as good as you, use the 10-80-10 protocol. 10% in the beginning is explaining what good looks like, okay? Use a Loom video to literally walk them through the exact system that needs to be completed. Explain the outcome that you want out of it and what you need as a bare minimum and why you want it. Then in the middle 80%, just let them run it, okay? Don't micromanage it. Remember, the goal is to let them do the work so that you don't have to. So don't waste your own time by getting involved here. And then the final 10% is just to review it, tighten it, show them what they did wrong in a productive and healthy way, okay? And what you could do is you could ask them to make a Loom video explaining the whole system in their own words so that they can get even better at it the next time. And remember this one principle, okay? 80% of work done by someone else will always be 100% of your time being wasted. So don't seek perfection, seek progress. Now we're moving on to the bit that I love the most, okay? This is where I get to bring in all of my knowledge from my years building a thriving AI automation business. Let me start with this, okay? AI isn't just letting ChatGPT tell you what to do. That's not real leverage. What we do here is we build automations that are integrated into your business so that the boring, repetitive stuff never has to be touched again. I'm talking about things like leads getting filtered properly, follow-ups happening automatically, support tickets being sorted out in the background instead of having to rely on you. But here is the real level up. What you want to do is build human in the loop automations. And this is where AI does all of the heavy lifting, right? So we automate entire functions of your business like a sales system. It handles all of the repetitive, predictable stuff, but the secret is that we integrate our delegations so that human intelligence and logic can oversee the entire machine, because AI can't get everything right and you can't expect it to. Because I build my automations based off of real data, then it keeps learning from itself. Week by week, it gets better, faster, stronger. It literally never stops improving. So now we've got to a point where you stop doing all of the work yourself and instead you direct and orchestrate the entire machine. We now have a business that works with your brain instead of against it. So now we move on to the final piece of my system, phase 5. This is the icing on the cake that ties everything together. You see, once you have a business that runs by itself, there's still one last important thing that you need to ask yourself. How do you know that the business is actually working? Because now you're no longer stuck in every inbox. You're not checking every little thing. So the worst thing that can happen to you is that you trust everything is working and then it breaks down in the background. Now all of a sudden you have a massive problem to fix and maybe a business that's about to face collapse. So phase 5 is building your CEO dashboard, okay? We use data from all of your business and life pillars to ensure that we are on track to meet our objectives, right? So we need to track all of our quantifiable metrics to make sure that we're actually meeting our target vision. And here's the key, okay? Don't track a million different metrics like some finance bro. What you need to do is you need to track questions, because questions keep you focused on outcomes whilst random data just overwhelms you. So for example, certain questions that your dashboard could answer is, do we have an effective pipeline? And the data that you track are booked calls and your show rate. Are clients happy? Where you track your churn signals and your client score. Is delivery smooth? Gets answered by onboarding time and time to value. Is the machine actually working without me? You track your tasks completed, your SLAs and your open loops. But let me give you a little bit of extra sauce with those chips. What we want to do is we want to color code all of our metrics and our questions, right? Red, amber, green. Green shows us that everything is going good, okay? Don't let your mind spiral over it because it's literally meeting our objectives. Do not touch something that isn't broken. Yellow means that it's good enough for us to survive, but we still want it to be better, right? So if there's nothing else to do, then I'm allowed to focus on this. But the moment that one thing turns red, you don't spiral, okay? You don't go back into the chaos and start doing everything yourself again. You just go back to the night before journaling where you're talking to your future self and you say, look, this is my biggest problem. Let's break it down so you stop being scared of it and start logically explaining how we can fix it. And that's how you direct your hyperfocus towards this problem without letting everything crash and burn, right? And it could be simple things like maybe the AI follow-up is misfiring. Maybe the team needs a tighter SOP, or maybe even just onboarding is dragging. It doesn't matter what it is. The point is that you see it clearly, you fix it fast, and the whole machine gets stronger every single week because you're only focusing on the problems. Now, I would like to caveat this. I would like to say, just be careful when designing the CEO dashboard, because if you miss something important to track, then it could come back to haunt you. So always consider the MECE principle when designing your data, right? And this means that all data has to be mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. And essentially, without boring you with all the details, all this means is that your data becomes non-overlapping and it is fully encompassing of all of your business functions, okay? So you're not missing any of the vital pieces. So once you have all of this on lock, you are no longer guessing anymore. You're leading your business and your life from the front. And when you combine phase 4 and phase 5, leverage and visibility, then you stop feeling trapped inside the business because you actually have control without having to touch everything and get lost in the mess. I think it goes without saying, I love this system. I'm pretty sure it saved my life and I know how much it's been appreciated by my clients. Every time I talk about it, it just makes me think that success is inevitable if you just follow this plan effectively. How can you fail when you have this system dialed in? It just doesn't make sense to me. So this is why you don't need a lead gen agency. This is why you don't need a new funnel. All you need to do is fix the fundamentals behind how you're running your business and your life. Look guys, if you watched this far, then I already know and you already know that you're not lazy. This was a long video. The problem that you're facing is that you're just running your business without an operating system that's designed for you. And if you try to build this system alone, then you'll do what every smart ADHD founder does, okay? You'll build 20, 30%, maybe even 60%. But then real life gets in the way, right? The waves that we spoke about before, they'll just come crashing down on you and you'll snap back into chaos. You'll break down all of the hard work that you've done. This is why I don't sell this as a course. It's not easy to just teach someone what needs to be done and let them go and do it, because there's so many components that can be broken. Instead, I work one-to-one with my clients to build your CEO operating system in the correct order, right? So we got the vision, the noise removal, the hyperfocus systems, the delegations, automations, and then finally tying it together with the KPI dashboards. If you are an ADHD entrepreneur who's feeling stuck in both their business and life and finally want success to feel inevitable, then book a call below. I promise you that in that call, by the end of the conversation, you will walk away with a clear understanding of your business's biggest bottleneck, and I'll give you an action plan for how you can start building your dream life today. Let's work through this together. I'll see you there.